Revealed, how a 5-minute encounter with a mechanic changed this paralyzed CEO's life forever. Jake Andrews sat in his wheelchair outside the local auto shop, the morning sun casting a warm glow on his face. The smell of grease and gasoline filled the air, a stark reminder of his previous life as a driven CEO. A life filled with chase, ambition, and high-stakes deals. Now, the only thing he chased was the fleeting sense of self he had lost. He watched as cars rolled in, their engines humming a mechanical symphony he once commanded. But now, he was merely a spectator to it all, feeling small and trapped. Time trickled by slowly. Just as disappointment loomed, a mechanic walked out. Tom. A gruff man, he carried years of resilience in etched lines and a no-nonsense demeanor. They struck up a conversation, and Jake found himself sharing more than he intended. Tom spoke plainly but with a weight that Jake had almost forgotten. "Every challenge teaches you something," he said, his voice steady like a metronome. "It's in how you choose to rise that defines you." Something flickered inside Jake, a spark of hope in a dense fog of despair. For those 5 minutes, Jake felt seen, heard. Tom's insight cut through the mundane worries, whispering possibilities where there once were none. "You're more than your chair, man. Remember that." As Tom turned away, the warmth of his words settled deep in Jake's heart, illuminating a path he thought was blocked forever, but like a cruel turn of fate, the rest of Jake's day spiraled. At dinner, Sarah mentioned the school science fair, and the air turned heavy. They needed volunteers, but Jake felt the weight of inadequacy crush him. "You know I can't do that," he murmured, his voice strained. Tears welled in Lily's eyes, wide and pleading, but he felt like a ghost in his own home. What kind of father couldn't he help with a simple project? He raged inside as whispers buzzed around him, townsfolk speculating about how his family coped. Did they even see him anymore? Days passed, frustration boiling over, igniting tensions with Sarah. She did her best to maintain normalcy, but Jake's aspirations felt like drifting smoke. Wrapped in his self-doubt, he yearned for the man he used to be but doubted he deserved to dream again. His heart raced as he heard about a struggling local charity, one supporting disabled entrepreneurs. Could he rally for a cause? Could he find the words that once flowed so easily? Yet, he felt stuck, bound by limitations. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the shadows grew long outside, Jake's heart felt heavy with more than just frustration. He longed for connection, for understanding beyond pity and whispers. The bright-eyed faces of the community seemed like a flickering flame, their support a lifeline pulling him back from the edge. But with that hope came a daunting challenge he couldn't ignore. Just when he felt a hint of clarity, darkness loomed close. What did true leadership look like now? Could he redefine strength without losing himself in the process? The hard questions clawed at him, leaving him at a crossroads he never expected. Jake spent the next few days lost in thought. Every detail of his conversations with Tom echoed in his mind. Those simple words, resonating as if they were a lifeline thrown into a turbulent sea. "You're more than your chair." But how could he be? Each time he wheeled through town, he saw the pity in people's eyes. He was Jake Andrews, the once prominent CEO, reduced to a shadow of his former self. As he gazed out at the world, he felt like sonorous music fading to silence. Friday evening came with a renewed sense of purpose. He could no longer sit idly by and let life drift past. He needed to take action. Maybe that charity wasn't just a whisper of an idea, maybe it was his chance to reclaim some semblance of his old self. With this thought, Jake spent hours scouring the internet, looking at what the charity stood for. Inspiration kindled in his heart, He imagined a workshop where budding entrepreneurs with disabilities could craft their dreams into reality, just like he once had. But could he really make it happen? Anxiety gripped him, the familiar feeling creeping back like an unwelcome intruder. Before doubt could seep too deeply, he reached for his phone. Something pulled at him, a desire to speak to the charity's director to show them he, too, was alive, and still had something to contribute. The moment he dialed, his pulse quickened. "Hello, this is Mark," the man answered, an energy that seemed to crackle through the line. Jake faltered. Words had always flowed like water in his days of success, but now his tongue felt heavy with uncertainty. I'm Jake. I'd like to help with the charity," he finally managed to stutter, searching for the confidence that felt out of reach. A brief pause lingered before Mark replied, "That's fantastic. Our community thrives off volunteers." The warmth in Mark's voice made Jake feel a tiny glimmer of hope. They spoke about needs, about the barriers disabled entrepreneurs faced, and Jake felt as if a door began to creak open. The charity was planning a fundraising gala, and they needed volunteers. Moments later, Jake committed, though his heart threatened to leap from his chest. Once the call ended, a whirlwind of emotions swirled within him: excitement, fear, even exhilaration, but mostly, there was relief. Maybe he wasn't entirely lost. Each word he exchanged felt like a step back into a world where he wasn't defined by his disabilities but by his desires and goals. That evening, after sharing his plans with Sarah, he noticed a change in her expression. The doubt clouding her eyes was replaced with admiration, a flicker of pride that filled the room with warmth. She held his hand, squeezing it tightly. "I'm so proud of you, Jake," she said, her voice brimming with warmth. For a moment, Jake felt a breath of what it meant to belong, to strive, amidst the chaos that life had thrust upon him, but they both knew this was just the start. There were challenges ahead, and Jake felt them lurking. Would the community accept him back? Could he truly inspire others when he struggled with his own doubts? The night deepened, filled with thoughts and plans. As Jake lay in bed, feeling more alive than he had in ages, he couldn't shake the nagging thought: was this newfound hope real, or just a flicker in the vast unknown? With a heart poised on the brink, Jake prepared to face the obstacles. The following day would mark the start of something significant, yet daunting. He could feel it in his bones. The gala was just around the corner, but so were the whispers of self-doubt. What awaited him there? Would it be a crash landing back into despair, or a soaring flight towards new beginnings? The horizon seemed to whisper possibilities, and he hoped he was ready. As the sun rose, illuminating the path before him, one question echoed insistently: could he truly rise and redefine success on his own terms? The day of the gala arrived, cloaked in a twilight blue that hinted at new beginnings. Jake woke up with butterflies in his stomach, the kind that felt more akin to wild birds than the anxious flutter he had become accustomed to. Each tick of the clock sent ripples of nervous excitement coursing through him. Today would not just be another day, today could redefine everything that he spent the morning dressing in the fitted blazer Sarah had insisted would make him look more corporate, as she put it. It felt snug against his shoulders, reminding him of days where confidence flowed from him like a steady stream. As he gazed at his reflection, he wondered who was staring back: an image of a determined man or simply a man who once thrived in a boardroom? In that moment, the mental silhouette of his old self whispered, urging him not to lose hope, even when the present blurred the lines. Sarah watched him from the doorway, her expression a complex blend of encouragement and nervousness. "You look amazing, Jake," she said, her voice like sunlight chasing away lingering shadows. "Just remember, this isn't just about you. It's about all of them, those people you want to inspire." Her words stuck with him. Driving to the venue, the scenery flashed by like life's fleeting moments. Each car he passed seemed to represent a different path: those chasing dreams, like him, and those whose lights had dimmed. When they finally arrived, a flash of lights greeted them, illuminating the entrance as if inviting them into a world of gratitude and recognition. As they entered, Jake felt the buzz of the crowd wash over him, a collective heartbeat filled with hope. The venue was grand, adorned with banners showcasing entrepreneurs from the charity. Each one had a story that deserved to be heard. He took a deep breath, gripping the arm of his chair tighter as they rolled deeper into the event. Mark, the charity director, approached with a broad smile. "Jake. Great to see you." His enthusiasm felt contagious, lighting a small flame of certainty within Jake's heart. They exchanged pleasantries before Mark introduced him to others involved in the charity. As the night unfolded, Jake could feel that this was a community, a family. Each shared story of adversity and triumph connected them in unexpected ways. Still, he felt the sting of self-doubt creep back in, lurking like a shadow. How could he possibly inspire anyone when he felt broken himself? Then came the moment when Mark handed him the microphone. "I know Jake has a few words prepared for us tonight," he said, gesturing toward him. Hearts in the room seemed to hold their collective breath, waiting. Swallowing hard, Jake wheeled to the front, feeling every eye on him. The instant silence felt deafening. He glanced at Sarah, who smiled back, her encouragement like a buoy in turbulent waters. He took a breath, letting it fill him with conviction. "Thank you for being here," he began, his voice shaking slightly. "I'm just a guy who once chased a dream and lost his way. But I realized, in those darkest moments, hope doesn't vanish, you just have to look harder." He shared stories of his journey, of waking up each day feeling unsure yet determined to fight. The words flowed, fueled by the passion igniting in his chest. He could see the nods around him, emotions swelling in faces he had once perceived as indifferent. But as he spoke, a flicker of doubt returned, a question lingering like a shadow. Would they believe him? Was his transformation valid? Amidst the sea of eyes, one face caught his attention, a mechanic he recognized from the workshop down the street, a man who had offered fleeting kindness during his darkest days. That genuine look of understanding pushed Jake even further. "In a way, we are all like mechanics," Jake said, feeling the energy shift in the room. "Building dreams takes repair sometimes. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to keep showing up." And that's when he noticed the tears glistening in many eyes, including his own. The moment felt electric, connections forming in ways he had never expected. He was no longer hiding behind the walls of self-doubt, he was out in the open, raw and real. The applause that followed was thunderous, echoing in Jake's heart, filling him with a warmth he'd thought lost. Could the mechanic's presence have been the catalyst that changed everything for him? The answer loomed larger than he could fully grasp. As the night wore on, he felt lighter, uplifted by the support that surrounded him. But would he carry this energy with him into tomorrow? Would this spark be enough to fend off the dark whispers of doubt? Only time would reveal the true strength of his newfound courage. As he wheeled away from the stage, one salient thought remained: the true journey had only just begun. What awaited him in the reality that followed this momentous evening? Jake moved through the crowd, still buzzing from his speech, feeling like he was floating just a bit above the ground. The warmth of the applause lingered, wrapping him in a comfort he had forgotten existed. Sarah was right beside him, her grin wide and infectious. "You were incredible up there," she exclaimed, still radiating that same sunlight he had drawn strength from earlier. The pride in her eyes fueled his own. "Thank you," he breathed, still trying to process what had just happened. It wasn't just the words he had shared, it was how they had resonated with people. Each face he encountered held a different story, a different journey. Some seemed inspired, others reflective, and a few openly emotional. It was a strange yet thrilling realization, a reminder that vulnerability often cultivates connection. "Hey, let us go grab a drink," Sarah suggested, pulling him toward a refreshment table. The clink of glasses and distant laughter filled the air, creating a backdrop of shared joy. As they weaved through the crowd, Jake caught sight of the mechanic he recognized earlier. The man stood near a booth, engaging with others, his presence infectious, brightening the mood around him. "Let us talk to him," Jake said, feeling an urge to express his gratitude. He navigated closer, despite the flutter of anxiety returning. The man noticed them approaching and his face broke into an easy smile. "Jake," he said, extending a hand. "You sure brought down the house tonight. Powerful stuff." "Thanks, I appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you," Jake replied, recalling that moment of kindness from the shop. "You didn't have to reach out back then, but you did. That small gesture made a big difference." The mechanic nodded, his eyes reflecting an unspoken understanding. "Sometimes, we all need a little nudge, right? Just goes to show how we can change each other's lives without even realizing it." Sarah leaned in, curious. "What brought you to the workshop, if you don't mind me asking?" "A tough time," he replied simply, shrugging. "Lost my job, hit rock bottom. But I learned that it's the little repairs that count. I've made it my mission to help others find their spark again, just like you did tonight." Jake felt a sense of kinship blooming in that moment. Here was someone who saw life from a similar perspective, someone who understood the fight and the resilience it takes to keep pushing forward. They continued chatting for a while, sharing stories and laughter that left Jake feeling more connected than he had in ages. The more the mechanic spoke, the more Jake realized how intertwined their journeys were despite their different beginnings. It was incredible how one person could impact another in ways that stretched far beyond a simple conversation, but soon enough, the moment ended, and Jake felt the familiar weight of uncertainty creeping back in. Would he be able to channel this inspiration into actionable steps tomorrow? Would he carry the momentum forward or let the worries creep in? As he and Sarah stepped away from the mechanic, the question loomed larger than ever. "Did you feel that connection?" Sarah asked, her voice tinged with excitement. "You really should stay in touch with him. It's clear he gets it." "Yeah," Jake replied, a mix of hope and anxiety fluttering in his chest. "I think I will. It's important to have those connections." That night, driving home, the questions swirled like a storm inside him. His heart raced at the thought of what he could do next. But he also felt the tether of the past tugging at him. Could he transform this newfound energy into something tangible? The thought of facing tomorrow felt daunting, almost overwhelming. As he pulled into the driveway, a wave of doubt washed over him. What if he couldn't keep it up? What if he just fell back into the same patterns? In that moment of uncertainty, he understood that the real challenge lay ahead, not on the gala stage, but in the small, everyday choices that could either breathe life into new dreams or reinforce old fears. In that silence as he sat in the car, he grasped that each dawn would be another opportunity. But with no clear path in sight, he opened his door and hesitated. The weight of the day and all that lay before him hung heavy. Would he embrace the shift, or would he let it slip away? The answer danced just out of reach, as mysterious as the sun slowly rising beyond the horizon. What would tomorrow demand of him, and would he be ready to face it? Jake stepped out of the car, the cool night air brushing against his skin, grounding him somewhat. The distant smell of lilacs from the garden brought back memories of childhood summers, when life felt simpler. He stood there for a moment, contemplating the road ahead, the quiet of the night enveloping him like a blanket. As he made his way to the front door, his mind throbbed with the possibilities that awaited him. What if he truly embraced the connections he had just begun to form? The uncertainty about the future chased him like shadows from behind, but if tonight had proven anything, it was that change was possible. Maybe, just maybe, he could step out of the confines of his comfort zone. "Hey, are you coming in or just going to stand there?" Sarah called from the porch, leaning against the railing with a teasing smile. "Just thinking," Jake replied with a chuckle, shaking his head as he finally moved toward her. "You've got to let that brain of yours rest, you know. There's a big day ahead." Her excitement was infectious, and even his swirling thoughts began to settle into an eager anticipation. Once inside, the comforting familiarity of his belongings surrounded him, a stark contrast to the uncertainty that loomed outside. Jake poured himself a glass of water, every drop provoking a whirlwind of questions. He found himself staring at the blank pages of his journal sitting on the kitchen counter. Normally, he would fill it with business ideas or mundane tasks, but tonight felt different. "What are you thinking about writing?" Sarah asked, joining him at the counter and glancing at the blank page. Jake paused, unsure how to articulate the tumult inside. Just how to keep moving forward. What if I can't? What if this all fades? Hey, she leaned in closer, her tone softening. You won T. You're not the same guy you were. That speech? It wasn't just words, it was you, a new you. Trust that. He nodded slowly, absorbing her words. Maybe he did need to trust in this change. What if he made a commitment? A commitment to reach out to that mechanic, to others who shared similar stories? To build something bigger than himself? I think I'll start tomorrow, he said, the determination bubbling up inside. I'll call him. I want to see if there's a way for us to work together. Maybe we could help others, too. Now that's what I want to see. You'll create a ripple effect, Sarah encouraged, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. You've inspired them, now it's time they inspire you back. Jake felt a smile grow on his face as he envisioned this new path opening up. He could touch lives, share stories, gather a community of people who had weathered storms just like his own. There was strength in vulnerability, and somehow, that thought no longer terrified him. As they settled on the couch with mugs of steaming tea, Sarah's laughter ringing in his ears, Jake felt a renewed sense of purpose. So many threads of connection were woven through their lives, and tomorrow, he would take the first step to untangle his own, but the comfort began to wear thin as the doorbell rang unexpectedly, slicing through the soft calm like a knife. A rush of apprehension flooded Jake's chest. Who could it be at this hour? He exchanged a glance with Sarah, each of them momentarily unsure, hearts thrumming in sync. What did this surprise hold? When he opened the door, the last person he expected stood on his threshold, eyes wide with emotion, ready to divulge a story that could change everything once again. Jake, I need to talk to you, the figure said breathlessly, the intensity in their voice sending a jolt through Jake. It's about that workshop. Jake blinked, trying to process what he saw. It was Mark, the mechanic. The man he had met just days ago at the community center, whose passion for fixing not just cars, but people's spirits had struck a chord deep within him. Mark? Jake stammered, his heart racing. What is going on? Mark stepped inside, visibly shaken. He closed the door behind him, as if to keep the world outside at bay. I didn't know where else to go. I need your help, it's urgent. Jake felt a knot form in his stomach, sensing the weight of urgency in Mark's eyes. Sure. What has happened? It's about the workshop. Mark's voice trembled, betraying his usual calm. Things aren't what they seem. The funding, it's shaky. I'm afraid it could fall through before it even begins. Sarah, still perched on the couch, exchanged a worried look with Jake. What do you mean? I thought everything was sorted out. She interjected, her brow furrowed in confusion. Mark nodded, taking a deep breath as he leaned on the counter. It's not about the money, it's about the people involved. I have reason to believe someone is trying to shut us down before we even get started. I can't go into details right now, but we need to act quickly. Jake felt a surge of frustration. This was what he hoped would be a turning point, not just for him but for everyone who needed this workshop. What can we do? You can count on me. Just tell me what you need, he urged, the determination welling inside him. Mark looked into Jake's eyes, his own carrying the weight of doubt and fear. We need to gather the community, let them know how important this is. If we don't rally together, we might lose everything we've worked for. If we can show them the impact we can have, maybe we can save it. Jake's mind whirred with possibilities. Let us make it happen. We can spread the word on social media, organize meetings. The people need to see the value in this. We need their voices. Exactly, Mark agreed, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. But I need you to speak. You have that gift. Your story, it will resonate with them and show them what's at stake. Jake felt the gravity of the moment settle heavily on his shoulders. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was about a community yearning for connection, for healing. And what if this was a chance to solidify his new path, the one he had barely begun to walk? "Okay, let us do it," Jake replied, and he felt a spark of excitement join the fear. "Let us show them all." Sarah reached for Jake's hand, squeezing it gently. "I'm in. We all are. We can't let this slip away." The three of them spent the next hours hastily drafting plans, creating flyers, and sending messages through social media. The initial shock transformed into an electric energy, a pulse of determination flowing from one to another. Jake felt alive, the fear ebbing away, replaced with purpose. But as Jake looked outside, he caught a glimpse of movement in the shadows, two figures lurking near the edge of the driveway. An unsettling feeling twisted in his stomach. "Mark," he said slowly, turning back. "What if someone is already watching us?" "I've got a bad feeling about this," Mark replied, his voice low and steady. "We need to tread carefully." As they filled the room with plans and fervent aspirations, the weight of impending danger loomed over them. What were they really getting themselves into? Would they be able to unite the community, or would darkness silence their voice? The questions hung in the air, heavy and unyielding, as dread nestled deep in Jake's heart. Would he find the strength to fight back, even when the odds seemed stacked against him? "Tomorrow will be pivotal," Jake said, resolve hardening within him. "But we can't let fear hold us back." And yet, as he wrapped up their plans, a thought broke through the chaos. Had they unleashed a force beyond their control? What would happen if they ignored the warning signs? A storm was brewing, and Jake would soon discover just how far he was willing to go. The door creaked ominously in the silence, and a chill ran down his spine. What awaited them just beyond that threshold? As Jake stood there, the air thick with tension, his mind raced. Mark's words echoed in his thoughts. Shadows lingered just outside, whispering uncertainties and threatening the very hope they were trying to cultivate. He had always been the type to retreat in fear, but this was something different. His heart pounded with a mix of dread and determination. "Let us stick together," he urged, glancing at Sarah and Mark, both looking vigilant. "We need to keep our heads on straight and stay sharp. I won't let anything happen to this project." Mark nodded, but there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes. "I appreciate that, Jake. But we might need to be prepared for anything. There's more at stake here than just a workshop." Sarah glanced uneasily at the window where the two figures were still, shadows lurking as if waiting to pounce. "It's not just about what we're fighting for," she murmured, biting her lip. "What if we're also fighting against someone powerful?" Jake clenched his jaw, feeling the weight of her words. "Then we need to hit back harder. We'll spread the word, get our voices out there, and stand united. We can't let fear drive us apart." The three of them were about to dive deeper into preparations when a loud bang echoed from outside. They jumped, hearts racing, and instinctively moved closer together. Jake turned to Mark, eyes wide with urgency. "What was that?" "I don't know," Mark whispered, tension tightening his voice. "But we should check." With quick nods of agreement, they tiptoed to the door, Jake at the front. He opened it slowly, the hinges creaking like a warning. As they stepped outside, the cool night air hit their faces, sharp and foreboding. "Stay close," Jake whispered, scanning the area. The figures he had seen earlier were gone, swallowed by the dark. The tension clung to them like a thick fog. What they found turned their stomachs. A single flyer, torn and crumpled, lay at the foot of the porch. It was a message, a threat masked as a warning. "Stop what you're doing, or there will be consequences." Mark's expression darkened. "This is what I was afraid of. Someone wants us to back off." "A threat? This isn't just about funding problems anymore," Jake said, his voice a mix of disbelief and anger. The fire that had flowed through him just moments before was now tinged with fear. "What do we do now?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. Jake took a deep breath, his mind racing. "We can't give in. We need to find out who's behind this and expose them. We need to show everyone what's happening here. We can do this. Sarah looked at him and nodded, her resolve building. Together. Mark stepped closer, his hands clenched at his sides. We can't back down. But we must be smart. Every move counts. As they stepped back into the house, Jake still felt their eyes on him, a haunting reminder of the danger they now faced. Tomorrow, I'll speak to the community. His voice was steel, solid and unwavering. I'll lay it all on the line. If we're going to fight this battle, it starts there. The night's uncertainty sat heavily on them, but so did a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could turn this around. As they prepared for the next day, another thought clawed at him: was this journey worth the risk? Would their fight be enough to protect their dreams? Jake's heart raced with trepidation and excitement. What would tomorrow hold? And would dark forces stand in their way once again? A crack echoed from behind him, and his blood ran cold. Something, or someone, was lurking in the shadows. Fear clutched at him, and he knew then that they were being watched. Would they take the plunge into this uncertainty, or would fear rewrite their story? The morning light crept through the windows, washing the room in a soft golden hue. Jake sat at the kitchen table, a pile of papers in front of him, but the words blurred together. His mind spun, haunted by the message from the night before. The threat felt heavier now, a stone pressing against his chest. Sarah shuffled in, her hair tousled, but the fire in her eyes was unmistakable. Are you ready? He forced a smile. I have to be. Mark walked in right behind her, a cup of coffee in his hand, his brow furrowed in a mix of concern and determination. You sure about this, Jake? We can come up with another plan. No. I need to do this, he insisted. We need to unite the community. If we don't stand together, we'll crumble. With each word, he felt a flicker of strength kindling within him. He picked up the flyers they had seen the night before, the threat slashing through the hope they had built. He knew it wouldn't be easy, fear was a powerful weapon, and they were outnumbered. As they made their way to the community center, the streets felt different. The air was thick with anticipation, and each step forward echoed the racing beat of Jake's heart. Inside, a small crowd began to gather. Familiar faces stared back at him, concern etched across their brows. He could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on him. He took a deep breath and stepped up to the makeshift podium, the crowd's silence wrapping around him like a blanket. Thank you all for coming, he started, his voice steady. I know we're facing challenges. It's not just about the workshop anymore, it's about our community and what we stand for. We've received threats aimed at silencing our mission. Murmurs rose in the crowd, and he could see some tense up, fear flickering in their eyes. But we must not let fear dictate our choices. We are more than what someone wants us to be. We are a team. A family. If we stand together, we can create the future we want. A voice called from the back, shaky yet fierce. What if this goes too far? What if they come for us? Jake's heart sank at the question. We can't allow fear to shackle us. We can take action, together, to expose the truth. We can find out who's behind this and stand against them. Mark stepped up alongside him, offering the crowd another nod of support. We don't have to face this alone. We'll brainstorm, create strategies, whatever it takes. We're in this together. The atmosphere shifted. A woman in the front row raised her hand, her determination shining through her eyes. Count me in. I won't let anyone push us around. Jake felt the energy in the room start to build, something powerful and collective. As more voices chimed in agreement, he could see hope reflected back at him, pushing aside the dark corners of doubt that had crept in. Just as they neared a collective plan, a commotion erupted outside. Startled, they turned as the doors burst open. Gasps filled the room. Outside stood two men, their faces obscured by dark sunglasses, looking every bit like agents of intimidation. Your little meeting is over, one called out, his tone cold. Jake's heart raced. Their presence was enough to bring fear storming back, but he clenched his fists, feeling a surge of resolve. Not today, he said finally, his voice breaking through the chaos, steady and fierce. We won't be silenced. As the tension hung in the air, Jake realized that this moment could be the tipping point. Would they stand firm together and face the intimidation, or would the shadows of fear once again take hold? Before he could finish that thought, the door swung wider open, and the crowd behind him surged forward, united. Jake could feel the collective heartbeat, hope ignited within him. This was at the moment they would either shatter the darkness or give into it. Would they choose to confront their fears, or would they allow the threats to dismantle everything they built? The two men stood at the entrance like sentinels of dread, their posture rigid and their presence demandingly loud in the tense silence of the community center. Jake could hear the quiet gasps around him, felt the air thicken with uncertainty. But then, something unexpected happened. A voice rang out from the crowd, firm and unmistakable. You think you can intimidate us? It was old Mr. Peterson, the retired teacher, his voice holding a tremor of defiance. We've fought harder battles than yours. More murmurs of support rippled through the gathering. Jake felt the tension shift. One by one, others stepped forward, emboldened by Mr. Peterson's courage. A young mother cradled her baby, her eyes fiercely protective. We're not afraid. She shouted. You don't own us. The two men exchanged uncertain glances, caught off guard by the sudden surge of resolve. And just like that, what had felt like a mounting dread transformed into a powerful wave of unity. Jake found his voice rising above the chaos. You think you can scare us into silence? We're not backing down. We're standing up for each other, and we will fight. With those words, he could see a fire ignited in the crowd around him. Their apprehension was slowly morphing into something more potent: strength in solidarity. Mark clasped Jake's shoulder, his expression one of fierce pride. But the dark-suited figures didn't budge. One of them stepped forward, a sneer breaking his cold demeanor. You really think yelling is going to change anything? We're only getting started. Jake's heart raced. There it was, the direct threat he feared. But in that moment of sheer resistance, something shifted again in him. The realization struck, fear had been trying to paralyze him, but he wasn't alone anymore. This wasn't just about his turbulent thoughts or the shadows trying to swallow him whole, it was about everyone around him. He lifted his chin, catching the eye of Sarah, who nodded back with fierce determination. Our voices are louder than your threats. She called out, lifting her own voice, spreading her courage through the crowd. The sound of cheers erupted, drowning out the looming threats. Hope mingled with the air once again. The commotion outside didn't matter anymore. They were a chorus, each voice amplifying the strength of the other. And we're not going anywhere, cried a burly construction worker named Joe, fists pumping in the air. His presence seemed to galvanize the rest even more, like combustive sparks flaring outwards. The two men, though cloaked in intimidation, appeared unsure now, their facade of control slipping. Jake could sense the shift, the audience had become a force, and the fear they once carried was now a unifying power. But just then, a chilling sound cut through the air. It was the unmistakable screech of tires skidding on asphalt, followed by an explosive bang. People turned toward the window, hearts pounding as the noise echoed ominously. What was that? Someone shouted, panic creeping in again as uncertainty grasped the crowd. Jake felt that stone on his chest return, but was met with the firmness of the bodies around him. He squeezed his fists, anger mixing with urgency. They could yield to fear again or press on. He looked into the eyes of the crowd. Did they really want to lose what they fought so hard to build? He shouted above the rising panic. Whatever that was, we face it together. This isn't the end, it's just another challenge we'll overcome. Are you with me? The crowd erupted again, louder than before, fists raised, determination sparking anew. As Jake felt the wave of strength wash over him once more, the front door creaked slowly open again. A tall figure stepped inside, shadowy against the brightness behind them, raising more questions than answers. Could this new visitor be ally or enemy? And would they continue to fuel the fire of their united front, standing resolute against whatever came next? Jake's heart raced as he took in the unfamiliar figure stepping through the doorway. The community's enthusiasm dimmed momentarily, but then he found it the spark of determination lighting again in the crowd as they shifted their focus. "Who are you?" Someone called from the back, a note of suspicion lacing their tone. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a woman in her late 30s, dressed smartly yet casually. Her face bore the lines of a life lived in advocacy, passion evident in her dark, lively eyes. "I'm Mia," she introduced herself, raising her hands to calm the crowd. "I work in non-profit development, and I came to talk about the workshop you're all building. I've heard about the threats, and I want to help." "Help? How?" Jake blurted out, skepticism bubbling beneath his urgency. If she was here to offer aid, he needed to understand her intentions. Mia held up a stack of papers. "I've been involved with community initiatives for years. If we can pull together, I can connect you with legal resources, find funding even in tight spot funding." Jake echoed, hope reaching up to grab him. "We need that more than anything right now." She nodded. "But more than that, we need visibility. I heard about your rallying speech, and it's time to make it a movement. The threats you're facing, they don't hold power over a united front." Eyes sparkled with renewed hope. This was the rallying point they desperately needed. "Here's the plan," Mia continued, laying out strategies, igniting enthusiasm as she spoke. "We spread awareness via social media, community gatherings, let everyone know what's happening. If we can bring enough people together, we can garner the attention that will protect your project." The crowd buzzed, excitement weaving through the air like electricity. Jake felt the chains of doubt loosen, simply visualizing the support around him pulling everyone closer to a common cause. Mark chimed in, "While we're doing this, we need to be smart about our safety too." They won't just back down easily. "Yes," Mia responded. "We can organize group efforts, create plans to protect each other. No one should feel alone in this fight." The air thickened with determination. "Let's create a rally," Jake suggested, finding his voice rising above the frenzy. "Let's get the community involved, let them share their stories too. If we show who we are, what we can be, it won't just matter for us but for everyone who has felt silenced." More hands rose, voices called out ideas, the moment swelling with promise. As the noise swelled, Jake looked around at the faces illuminated by hope and solidarity. In that moment, he felt transformed, a leader again, no longer just a spectator in a world that had reduced him to a chair. Encouragement swept through him like a tidal wave, flushing out fear that had taken root for far too long. But just as victory began to feel within reach, someone at the back shouted, "What about the threats? Are we just going to forget about them?" The crowd quieted, and Jake nodded. "Fear is real, but we can't let it conquer us. If we stand together, they might think twice before messing with our unity. They don't scare us, this community is stronger." Cheering erupted again. Mia stepped forward, her excitement palpable. "Let's organize a community meeting for tomorrow. Bring everyone. Bring your friends, your family, anyone who believes in this cause. We have a chance to not only save the workshop but to turn our fear into a force for change. Let's do it." Someone echoed, igniting a chorus of agreement. The energy in the room was palpable. When the meeting ended, Jake wheeled away from the podium, buoyed by the realization that his newfound path was unfolding. The shadows still loomed, but they were no longer unyielding. They had become a backdrop to this rising movement of empowerment. As he turned back toward Sarah, he saw the pride shining in her eyes. "You've come so far, Jake. You're a part of your community again." His heart swelled. "And I'm not done yet," he said, newfound resolve all but singing through him. As they stepped out into the sunlight, under the bright blue sky, hope hummed in the air. Together, they embraced the unknown. The threats were real, but so were their dreams. Facing tomorrow felt more vivid than ever. With the heartbeat of the community rallying behind him, Jake realized they weren't just about to whisper their ambitions, they were going to shout them from the rooftops and reforge their identities in unity. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the first text of the flyer flashed through his mind: together. They were standing together, and together they could change everything, and with that, the night faded into a promise of change. Tomorrow would be the day they rose to redefine hope, for everyone who had hoped desperately for a spark. Whether they were chased by shadows or held up by dreams, Jake knew one thing: they'd finally taken the first step toward a glorious dawn. Remember, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss what comes next. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and comment below your thoughts and feelings about Jake's journey. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let's spread this message far and wide. Together we're unstoppable.